My name's Dave DeBow, founder of MoneyPartnerFormula.com, and this show is built for everyday real estate investors who are actively doing deals and looking to scale using other people's money. So if you're an active real estate investor and you want to get featured on this show to talk about your own real estate and capital raising experiences, then just go to daveinterviewyou.com. Now let's get rolling with this episode, and remember to subscribe for daily interview content. Hey guys, we're in for a real special treat today because we're going to be talking about two of my favorite things. Real estate, which you already know because this is a Property Profits Real Estate podcast, and booze, which you may or not have known. But that's what our special guest zooming in from Nashville, Tennessee, Morgan Salsman, is all about. She's all about bourbon and real estate, casks and cash flow. I love that terminology. So Morgan, welcome to the show. Great to have you.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
So tell us what you do and how it relates to real estate investing, because it is different.
It is. It is. Well, my business is called Lqd Assets, and we have three real main avenues of business. One of them is an investment fund in bourbon barrels. The other one is a warehousing space where we can hold about 160,000 barrels. And then the third one is we help build bourbon brands. So obviously, the closest connection to real estate is the warehouses that we have. But traditionally, my background is actually in civil engineering. So that's where a lot of my real estate knowledge and education came from. I'm a property owner myself. I've got a couple properties up in Louisville, Kentucky.
Oh, very, very cool. All right. So bourbon barrels is the business. That's so
Yes, sir.
you're making them and you're storing them for bourbon makers. Very, very cool. So kind of I'm just fascinated. Tell me about the barrel business. How does that kind of work?
So, there's a lot of different pieces of the puzzle on the production side of the three-tier system. You have your distilleries that are going to produce the product, but a lot of distilleries, you have to age the barrels for years before you're going to put them into a bottle necessarily. And a lot of brands don't have the cash to build a distillery. You're talking $50, $100 million, $200 million to build a facility like that. If you're a brand starting out, you can't start there. So a lot of brands do what's called sourcing. And so they'll buy their barrels from somebody like myself or even directly from the distillery if they can buy in bulk at the size that they need. And so they'll take those barrels and put it into their own bottle with their label on it, maybe put their own spin on it, change the proof, blend it up, and then put it on the shelf. So I like to compare it to the wine industry in the way of, you're not always producing your own grapes. Sometimes you're buying those from other people and putting your own spin on it. And so the way that I really like to draw the parallels between real estate and bourbon barrels is they appreciate in value over time. So once you fill the barrel, you have X price. And as they continue to age up, you are continuing to gain value until you take that barrel and dump it out and put it into a bottle. Then that aging process stops. Okay. And that is where the appreciation also stops. So that's when you have the time clock starting of, we need to get this in the bottle, put it on the shelf, and get it off the shelf into the consumer's hands.
Okay, fascinating. So kind of walk me through, what does appreciation of a bourbon barrel look like? So you got the bourbon in there day one. It's not worth a hell of a lot, but it's got value, right? How long does it take to kind of start to seriously see returns on something like this?
So, traditionally, you're not going to sell a barrel for more than it was produced for. And so, your production is typically your base level. And so as those barrels appreciate, once you get to that 2-year mark, that's when you reach the straight bourbon label. And so particularly ideal in Kentucky bourbon. So your Kentucky straight bourbon has to be aged for 2 years at least, and it has to be distilled in the state of Kentucky and aged in the state of Kentucky. So that's when you reach that first threshold of a 2-year-old product, getting your first, label option there. And then once you get to the 4-year-old, you're no longer required to put an age statement on it. And so those are kind of the two tiers that you first go through when you're going through the aging process. Now, a lot of brands like to put out, 7, 8, 9, 10-year-old bottles, which are, that higher price point. But that's also kind of funnily when you want to start putting an age statement on it. Even though you reach that 4-year-old threshold and you're no longer required to disclose it, of course, you want
You
to
want
start
to.
putting it out there.
Yeah.
Exactly. So there's a few
Oh,
different tiers.
yeah. Okay. So forgive me because I am completely ignorant about all of this. So you are making the barrels, right? The producer, the distiller, whatever we want to call them, is filling the barrels. How are you involved? Like, are you not selling them the barrel and then now it's their barrel? Are you renting them the barrel? Are you joint venturing with them? You're providing the barrel, they're providing the booze. You do like, how does that work, Morgan?
Right. So we buy an empty barrel from a cooperage. A
You
cooperage
you
makes
okay,
the
so you
barrel.
don't build the barrels, you're buying
Correct.
barrels.
We
Okay.
buy a built barrel from a cooperage. It's a new fill barrel. It's never been used before, freshly charred. That's one of the
Okay.
requirements of bourbon is it has to be never before used barrel. So we'll take that barrel to our distilling partners and say, fill this for us. So
Okay.
then we, pay for these new fill barrels and they'll fill them for us. We'll put them on a truck and take them to our warehouses where they will age for 3 to 5 years. And then that's when those brands come in and say, we want to put a 2-year-old product in the bottle. We want to put a 4, 5, 6, 7-year-old product in a bottle. And so we will, I like to say, hold the financial responsibility of the aging process for these brands. So they know where they're getting their juice from. They know what product they're getting. They have a little bit of even creative control over, saying, hey, we want to put, we want new fill that's a 75-21-4 mash bill, which is your grain recipe.
Yeah.
And we know that that's something we're going to put in the bottle in 4 years. Can you, produce that right now? We'll do a futures contract to make sure that, we've got access to inventory and you have a sell at the end. So, we're kind of that middleman between the
Yeah.
distillery and the brands to make sure that they've got the funds to purchase the barrels that they need. That, it's not an industry where you can say, okay, I want to start this right now. You have to have a
Yeah.
little bit of forethought
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
plan to put this product into a bottle.
Very, very interesting. Where do you see the parallels with real estate investing, Morgan? Because you're familiar with both.
Yeah, so it's a tangible asset-backed investment. This is
Mhm.
one of a very few of those that exist, and the appreciation value as well. So, it's a little bit different from real estate and the tax benefits that you see. The only real tax benefit that you see on the barrel investment side is you can claim capital gains, but you're not receiving depreciation or things of that nature. Now,
Mhm.
for our business specifically, of course, we have warehouses, so we do get a little bit of that value and depreciation over time for that particular piece of the business, just like any other property that a commercial property that you're going to run, it functions very similarly. But the actual tangible barrel asset, it's recognized as an asset by banks. You can loan against it. There's a lot of similarities in that nature between owning a piece of property and owning a barrel, because technically it is, a piece of real tangible property.
Yeah. So when you're getting investors involved with these with this investment, how do you kind of you explain it to them in the way you just explained it to me, I would imagine. What kind of returns are they typically looking at for this kind of an investment?
Great question. So, we've seen some phenomenal returns through COVID and things of that nature. And we've continued to see a 20 to 30% return on our investment annually. So,
Wow.
you're getting to compound that appreciation over time. And our traditional hold time is that 3 to 5 year age range, but we will sell to somebody that's looking for a 2-year-old barrel. We'll hold for a 7-year-old barrel. We have to have that flexibility for our brand partners to be able to, allow them to have that flexibility to put what they want into the bottle, because, we're just the money here.
Mhm.
And we're looking to be a tool and a resource for them to be able to reach, their goals and see their vision through.
All right. So I just want to back up and make sure I understand how this works. So you've got you've got the distillery, you've got the producer of the bourbon making the stuff. You've got you guys storing the stuff. Somebody else makes the barrels. You guys buy the barrels, put the product in the barrels, store them in your warehouses. Then you've got the end, well, not even the end. You've got the brand that's going to bottle the bourbon, right? That's their
Correct.
bottle and market the bourbon. So
Correct.
they don't want to have anything to do with actually making the stuff. They want to market and sell the stuff primarily. So, but I'm just wondering. So, for quality consistency, are they telling the producer, "Here's the exact recipe we want," and this kind of thing, or how does that kind of work? Or are different batches? Is there inconsistency among batches there? How does
So
that?
there's a lot of variables when it comes to the aging process of bourbon,
Yeah.
whether it's your environment that you're in. So, traditionally we talk about Kentucky bourbon, but you can make bourbon anywhere in the United States. So say you take that to Colorado, you're going to get much colder temperatures. You're not going to get the hot temperatures though. And so, those temperature swings are a huge piece of the equation when it comes to aging because the barrels will expand and contract. And so the
Mhm.
liquid, enters and exits the wood to add a lot of that flavor and color.
Right.
So that's one variable that you see. The other variable is the oak that you're using. I mean, you're cutting down different trees to make these barrels. One could
Yeah.
be from the West Coast, one could be from the East Coast. So, that's another variable that becomes involved. And then the mash bill is another one, the yeast strain's another one.
Yeah.
And so all of these are details that go into the distillation process. And when we go to produce, we say, we want to produce this mash bill with this yeast strain. We prefer barrels from this cooperage. All of these are variables that come into the creative side of blending and production, and that's what allows all of these different brands to use similar products but have such a unique expression on the shelf.
Different packaging.
That too.
No, but like
Great
is
story. A
is
great story is the best thing that you could do for a brand.
okay, so are you the one kind of setting the recipe, or who's setting the recipe of what your end the marketer seller is actually selling? Who's setting the recipe there?
So there's two different avenues that we explore with that. So
Yeah.
the first one is when we're doing these futures contracts and these brands have a flagship product that they're putting out, it's very consistent.
Yeah.
They come to us and they say, we want to take down X amount of barrels with this specific recipe that are aged at this age.
Yeah.
But, that doesn't cover all of our inventory. So we're sitting here watching market trends and saying, okay, what types of barrels are out there right now? What are people putting into a bottle? What are consumer trends looking like? And let's play a little bit of a prediction game to say, what do we think the market's going to need in 4 years? And so that's where I come into play. I talk to our distilling partners and ask them, here's what I'm thinking. Do you agree that these are going to be good mash bills to lay down? And they'll give me feedback, yes or no, or like, I heard this new one came on the market. There's a new SKU coming out with, XYZ brand, and they are going to need more product. And sometimes they'll connect us and we'll get a futures contract in place. Sometimes we'll just place bets on that mash bill. So we have quite a variety of options in our repertoire.
Yeah, very, very cool, Marty. Well, thanks for slowing it down for me.
Of course.
I appreciate it. And the warehousing, how does that kind of fit into the whole scheme of things? And uh, are those different investors involved in helping you out with the warehouse financing, or is it how does that side of the business work for you?
Yeah, so the warehouses, I have two partners there. One of them is my dad, and the other one is one of his great friends. And so all engineers, so we've got a lot of knowledge going into that. And I actually got to design our warehouses before I left my engineering job.
Nice.
That was one of the last projects that I did. So that was it's a baby of mine, I'd like to say.
Yeah.
Um, so that functions. The reason that we started doing that was because our distilling partners were filling up their warehousing space because production was increasing.
Yeah.
And so they were looking at us saying, we're going to double your storage rates. And we were like, I don't really want to do that. Why don't we just go build our own warehouses for ourselves? Started hearing some rumblings of, oh, other people need this space as well. And so with my experience in civil engineering, my dad was a construction guy. His experience in construction, and our other partner is a mechanical engineer.
Wow.
We kind of came together and said, this is a great idea. Let's throw it together and do this for ourselves and for the other people we've been talking about. And so our first warehouse went up the end of last year. So we now have 2 warehouses up. They hold about 58,000 barrels. Our third one's under construction, and we have room for 2 more on site. And once all 5 of those are complete, we'll be able to hold 160 to 170,000 barrels on site.
That's a lot of bourbon.
It is.
A lot of bourbon. Oh, this is awesome, Morgan. Well, I'm sure there's going to be some people interested in connecting and finding out more. If they want to do that, where should they go? How can they connect with you?
I would say check out my website. It's lqdassets.co, not .com, just .co. And you can find, there's blogs on there, other conversations I've had with, other podcasts and things of that nature. To learn more about this, my contact information's on there. So definitely check us out, and feel free to reach out with any questions.
I love that as well. LQD, liquid. Nice.
There you go.
Liquid Assets. Awesome, Morgan. Well, thank you very much. This has been a lot of fun.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
All right, everybody. Cheers, and we'll see you on the next episode. Hey there. I really hope you enjoyed that episode. And as always, if you want to listen to more daily interview content, make sure you subscribe. And if you're an active real estate investor and you're doing deals and you'd like to get featured on this show, then just head over to daveinterviewsyou.com. Now, at moneypartnerformula.com, we help real estate investors to create a process for predictably getting capital so they can do more deals without relying on hard money lenders or the banks. We do this by building them a private capital marketing system. Now, if you want help turning yourself into a big money capital attraction machine, then book a call with our team to see how we can help. Just visit moneypartnerformula.com to find out more. All right, take care, and we'll see you on the next interview.